Takadosh Boker Or. Bekiim Bahalacha 4, day 40, page 102. Halacha Peh. You know what Peh is? Yeah, Peh, the mouth. Yeah, so he says like this. Right? Mishev Shalo Lamtin. Ve'eno nechpaz letzeh min bet knesset. Somebody that could wait and he doesn't have to run out of the synagogue. Nachon yoter shelo yachlot tefillin de Rashi adachar leilun shabeach. He shouldn't take off the tefillin of Rashi until after leilun shabeach. Just like there was a minhag of Darizal HaKadosh and that of Chida, because it's very important to do it after leilun shabeach. Ve'achar kach yaniach tefillin de Rabbenu Tam. And after to put on the tefillin of Rabbenu Tam. And then you read Kriyat Shema. Urebehara. You were learning halacha. That's why you're here. You're here to learn halacha. So here, listen to what it says here. Putting on tefillin of Rabbenu Tam. Yeah, he comes and he says, Maran the Rishon LeZion. I'm in the footnote on page 103. Maran the Rishon LeZion added in the Yabia Omer that if there's enough time after one is finished reciting the Amidah before, right, we're beginning the repetition, it is permissible to change it in the tefillin of Rabbenu Tam. The response of Chemdat Avram complained that if someone wishes to take advantage of this leniency, he'll likely push himself to rush through the Amidah without concentrating. So if this happens, he's going to lose more than what he has to gain. Imagine right now, he wants to come and he wants to put it on before the Chazarah. He's going to have to start rushing the Amidah in order to get to the Yatzas Charo Befsedo. He's losing more than what he gains. So what are you supposed to do? Best to wait until after Leilun Shabeach. Maran da Rishon LeZion concluded that although it is technically permissible to put on tefillin of Rabbenu Tam after Chazarat HaShatz, as we just explained, anyone who's capable of waiting until after he completes Shachrit should do so. Meaning, if you're asking Rav Ovadia, ma yoter tov, la'asot pasek, right, to do a hefsek before, so that way they put on tefillin of Rabbenu Tam, or to wait until the end of the tefillah, that you have Rashi until the end, mamash of Elmaleh Shevach, and then you take it off and you put on Rabbenu Tam, the Rishon LeZion tells you that's what you're supposed to do. So he says in that way he follows the instructions of the Rizal HaKadosh, the founder of Shera Kavanot, and other poskim. That's also the conclusion of Rav Chida, citing his great grandfather Rabbi Avraham Azuzai in the manuscript. The Petach Hadvi insisted on observing this stringency. That tefillin of Rabbenu Tam can be put on after Shachrit, and then you say Shema, following the Shulchan Aruch instructions in Siman Lamedalet. Siman Lamedalet Shulchan Aruch Omened Mefurash. So what are you going to come now and see? But you come after Shachrit, you come and you put it on. It is best also to study Torah for some time each day while wearing tefillin of Rabbenu Tam. Yeah, so you heard. Ronen. Yeah, we're going to come, we're going to, right, have tefillin of Rabbenu Tam. Right? The Rav Chida cited also the king giving instructions. Yeah, you're right. He says, giving instructions not to take off the tefillin until after studying Torah. He explained that a person cannot connect with all the three parts of his nefesh, right, nefesh, ruach, and neshama, unless he studies Torah with the tefillin. Right? That's why many times we try to do as much as possible the shtei halachot, because we're learning with the tefillin on. Right? The Rashi Chochmah stated as well, the act of studying Torah while wearing the tefillin of Rabbenu Tam accomplishes even more spiritually than studying while wearing tefillin of Rashi. So therefore, he says an excellent choice will be to study the daily portion of Chok Nisal while wearing tefillin of Rabbenu Tam. It becomes clear now that the discussion of the Rishon LeZion legitimizing the practice of switching tefillin of Rabbenu Tam immediately after the cantor's repetition was meant only for those who have to hurry out of the synagogue. Otherwise, the proper method is to wait until after completing the Leilun Shabeach. Yeah, capish? So he says, although Moran and the Rishon LeZion seems to praise the other practice, it is clear that it is best to wait until after Leilun Shabeach. The matter needs more research. Anyone who switches to Tefillin of Rabbenu Tam only after Leilun Shabeach satisfies the ruling of the Pri Megadim, the Mishnah Berurah, who did not subscribe to the concept that we're going to combine the Tefillin of Rashi with Rabbenu Tam. This is also logical, since the main mitzvah of the Tefillin of Rashi, right, is the Rashi, meaning Rashi is the main one. At the end of the day, you make the Beracha on Rashi, right? You don't make the Beracha on Rabbenu Tam, right? You understand? So if someone switches to Tefillin of Rabbenu Tam before Valetzion, he will miss out the necessary quota of Kadishim and Kedusha of the prayers. What was the practice, though, of the Rishon LeZion? So he says over here, the practice, though, was in a synagogue, the Rishon LeZion instituted the practice of interrupting, of making a pasek in between, and at that right of switching. So he says, on Mondays and Thursdays, Rosh Chodesh, everyone put on the Tefillin of Rabbenu Tam and recited the first two passages of Shema before Kriyat Torah. The Rishon LeZion instituted this practice because many laymen used to join him for tefillot. Meaning, right, the Rishon LeZion, he was a lot of people used to go out to work. Right, he didn't live in Miami that nobody works in Miami. You understand? He lived, people had to run out to work. So he says, yes, before Kriyat Torah, Mondays and Thursdays as well. Mondays and Thursdays as well. Again, he was in Eretz Yisrael where they used to work, not in other places where they didn't work. He says, right? He says if he would arrive maintained right? If he would have maintained the practice switching tefillin only after shachrit was over, many of them would feel that they must rush to work. So therefore, once he instituted the practice, so therefore everybody did it as well. You understand? Meaning that, once he did it, so that what? Only a few people are going to do it and a few people not. So therefore, everyone already started doing it. But really, be'emet, if you're in a minyan that everyone is able, it's actually better to do them. Okay. Moreover, this is the way of publicizing the importance of wearing tefillin Rabbenu Tam. Anyone who regularly prayed with him felt obligated to do so because everyone's putting on Rabbenu Tam. Meaning, imagine you go to a minyan and everyone's putting on Rabbenu Tam, and so it makes you feel a little bit. So kilu, it's bringing up the kedusha of Rabbenu Tam, right? Where the same thing happens if you come and you see everyone wearing Rabbenu Tam together. Look at the kedusha. They come, they say, "Oh wow, yeah, fine." No, it's not a busha for Rashi. Wearing them together is Maran. The opposite. Maran says that Yireh Shamayim should put them on together. Maran mefurash. 100%, but you're not losing anything by putting them on together. The opposite. I just told you, Maran himself, Siman Lamed Dalet, open up Shulchan Aruch, the code of Jewish law, and Shulchan Aruch says mefurash, Yireh Shamayim puts them both on together.
Yireh Shamayim puts them together?
Yes. So what happens is, right? What happens now? He comes and he says like this. He says, according to the Oziel, it's likewise important to continue wearing one's talit gadol until after Hallel Shabbat. So it's not only just a tefillin, talit gadol. This was explained in the Yakud Yosef and Tzitzit in the English edition that we already learned that. The Yakud Yosef, based upon the response of Rabbi Omer, Yakud Yosef actually stated that the custom of Sephardic Jews is to switch tefillin before reciting Asherinu V'Letzion, and in that way they have the Kedusha, and he ignores the conclusion of the Rabbi Omer, right, stating that anyone who's capable of waiting should not switch until the end. Meaning here, the Rav Bitan, he comes and he says he didn't even look at the Rabbi Omer. Meaning the Rabbi Omer, Rav Ovadia himself tells you that if you can, you should wait until the end of the Tefillah. Yakud Yosef, he only quoted, no, do it in the middle. Right? In the later edition of Yakud Yosef, the author comments that some scholars challenge him on this point, and he defended his position, right? That one cannot deny that this was a practice by the Rishon LeZion. Okay, fine. The Or LeZion, though, he ruled that those who have the practice of wearing two pairs of tefillin should change to the tefillin of Rabbenu Tam after the Kaddish Kabal, which is recited right after the prayer of Avletzion. Apparently, he felt that one must continue wearing tefillin of Rashi until after hearing minimum of the 3 Kaddishim, right? As the Rama rule. And one cannot count them wearing it to the tefillin Rabbenu Tam. You can't start doing kombinot, combining them. It is difficult to understand, therefore, why he did not rule that one should continue wearing Rashi until the end of the Shachrit. That he Shalom preferred the people switch it right before Uvaletzion, so that way they were going to do the Kaddish, the Kedusha at least with Rabbenu Tam. Okay? Fine. Then he comes and he says, right? It is highly uldata riza la kadosh. Yeah, yesh lakpid gam kel in shelo la'asir et hatalit adachal gmal alenu l'shabeach. Just like we brought down in Siman Kaf Daled Halacha Yud Daled, which means that also a person should come, right, and make sure that they're going to not take off the talit until afterwards. Remember that you should always start learning Torah, right? Whether it's going to be Nefesh, Ruach, and Shema with the Tefillin Rabbenu Tam, right? Especially if you could do Chok L'Yisrael, it's going to be beautiful because there's a lot, obviously, of what to learn. Bezrat Hashem.